And now that we're recording, I am happy to announce that you have tuned into Corporate Life is Hell. This is our inaugural show on Blab, trying out something new. We've done this show for a few weeks on Google+, but now we're on Blab. The premise of our show, or really the premise of our title, Corporate Life is Hell, but does it have to be? So the premise of our show is that, yeah, for a lot of people who spend a lot of time in corporate life, it can be hell. And some of the reasons for that are what we're going to talk about on the show. But I think the more important part is, but does it have to be? It's the stake of this show that no, it doesn't have to be. And usually when there's an experience that's less than positive, it's due to a failure in leadership, is what I believe. And I also think that the solution to corporate hell is also leadership. And while it's very easy to point at other leaders who could be or may be the source of our own corporate hell, there's only one leader that you can make a difference with, and that's yourself. And so the stake of this show is, how do you bring your leadership to create a great corporate experience? So I'm happy to be joined by my two co-panelists, Carl and Laura. Let's get an official hello from you guys.
Hey, good morning today.
Hello, I'm glad to be here with everyone today. It's nice to see such a great turnout.
Cool. So I'm going to tell my story in just a moment, but I want to ask you guys first, what got you interested in a topic about corporate life is hell?
Well, for me, it came from the realization actually back in the late 90s that I no longer needed to accept the career path that the company was giving me, becoming less and less interested in that, to be honest. But still, I had very important contributions I wanted to make to the company. It was just sort of in a different area. And so I hopped off the regular predefined career path and decided to go off and chart my own, and did that for another 15 years. And it was a lot of fun, very challenging, but I was in a situation where I was like learning every day and getting to do strange and unusual things.
Great. Well, we're glad that you're doing those strange and unusual things with us. Laura, what's been your corporate experience?
Well, John Mayer sings a song about having a quarter life crisis, and I can really relate. I got to a point in my career where, and actually my life, where things were just so much different than I thought that they were going to be, and the opportunity to have a bigger impact in the corporate world came with a lot of strings attached and opportunities that weren't local to me. And it took several years because, I didn't find corporate hell only within myself. Like, the people I worked with were amazing, the company was amazing, but it was just not really a good fit for the position and what they needed of me and what my skills and values were.
So it was about not really feeling like you could contribute what was most valuable for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. So I always like to talk about my story and myself, and so I'll do that quickly and get it out of the way. So I was a corporate guy for 20 years. I still am a corporate guy in some ways because I make my living working with corporate leaders. But I went to college, and then I went to graduate school, and then I discovered that I was going to be an OD consultant. And so I felt like I kind of stumbled into my career, following what I was interested in school, and then following what people expected me to do. And, what was expected of me was go get a good job and go work in the corporate world. And that's what I did. And it actually treated me very well for a lot of years, especially when, in the late 90s, it was the dot-com boom and things were booming. And I worked for a technology company and things were fantastic. But there were also a few low times, and I didn't really understand at the time, why those were. But I continued on in my career. And as I got further up the ladder and the more years I spent, I started to experience more of those. And I actually had a little bit of a crisis. By the way, Laura, I loved your quarter life crisis. I think I'm too old to have had a quarter life one. I did have a midlife crisis, and part of it included, I don't know if I'm really fulfilled in what I'm doing. I could spend the rest of my life, or at least the rest of my working years, working in the corporate world, and the question started getting pretty prominent for me, with all the headaches and everything. Is this all there is? And so just a variety of circumstances came together where I made a decision to move on from corporate life. And I haven't looked back since. Now I discovered a couple things. One of the things I discovered is that a lot of the negative experience I had, I think I need to be accountable myself for those experiences.
Right.
It was easy to point at the bad leaders because there were plenty. I had a terrible boss at times, and there were awful decisions, and I did nothing but layoffs for the last, 10 years really, or 8 years of my HR career. I became an expert at doing layoffs. And so there were all those circumstantial things, but fundamentally my experience is up to me. And so that's the premise behind the show, I think, is that, I've kind of made that transition. And what I do now is help leaders understand that and liberate themselves from their own internal hell as well. So,
yeah. And, Mike, the idea is that if you go out and you start your own company or something like that, that then you're creating your own reality. It's like, okay, I can do things the way I think is right and all this. I think the thing people don't realize is that when you're working for somebody else, you are also creating your own reality. It's within a different set of constraints, but that's constantly changing your life. If you have kids, that changes the context that you're operating in, but still you continue to create your own reality within the context of your family.
I think if I had $1 for every time one of my executive clients said, I just need to go out on my own, start my own company, I'll be able to control everything and life will be so much better. I'd be a rich man if I had $1 for every one of those, because what you just said is true, Carl. It's not circumstantial. It's within your own experience and power.
Yeah, and not that going out and starting your own thing is a bad thing. I mean, I know lots of people that learn a lot that way, have great success maybe, or at least, get themselves into a situation where they're able to explore some different muscles than they have in the past. But the fact is you're always operating within the context of the reality around you. Your job, your life, your family, your living environment, your social circles, all that kind of stuff. And so it really all comes down again to what are the choices you're making as an individual with the tools and the environment you have. And sometimes that means you have to change. That's fine. But many times the biggest change you need to make is in yourself, not in other people.
Absolutely. It's going out on your own that a lot of people think about. And sometimes it's just, if I get to the top, if I were the CEO, it would be so much easier. I wouldn't have to deal with, the politics and people's bad decisions. And one of the greatest experiences I had recently, I was at a Super Bowl party and a friend of mine was there who happens to be the CEO of a mid-sized company. And I said, "Hey, Jeff, how's it going?" And he goes, my life is hell.
We have a show for you.
I know. That's exactly what I said. This idea, this concept is not about, worker bees who are stuck in the bottom of the organization. I actually felt like corporate life became hell a whole lot more the higher up that I got. The more power you get, the more expectation there is, the more politics there are. And you hear it even from CEOs. It's not always the happiest place to be. But
you're isolated sometimes, and you don't get the communication that you need, the honest feedback.
Yeah, it's a very, very isolating role. But again, I think it doesn't have to be. It all boils down to how you lead and how you connect and engage with others. So I am really excited that we've got some folks watching. I know Randy just joined. Hey, Randy, thanks for joining us. I hope you're finding what we're talking about useful.
And let's talk about regeneration's question here at the bottom. I think that's an important one.
Okay, read it out for us.
So we love the exploration of different muscles, but those things, politics and bad decisions, never go away, right? And it's like, absolutely. One of the things I talk about with my clients and friends and stuff is that life is messy. Whether we like it or not, it's sort of inherently a constant journey of discovery and mistakes and screw-ups. And, you'd like everybody else on the planet to have the same personality you do, right? So then we'd all get along. But actually, I don't think that would work. But yeah, the fact is that people do have different viewpoints, and they have different ways of making decisions, and then of course you layer on top of that we're all making mistakes all the time because we're just kind of doing the best we can with what we've got. And so the fact is that we will have what we call bad decisions. We will have politics. Actually, I think my theory is that the word politics, all politics is the way that groups of people make decisions. We tend to think about it in the context of the country and government and stuff like that. But when we talk about corporate politics and stuff like that, all it is it's about people trying to make decisions as a group. And the fact is, because they're coming from different places and they have different viewpoints, we get into disagreements. Then influence matters a whole lot. Opinions matter. Communication approaches matter. Stuff like that. So I think that this is inherent to the human race, actually, that we have politics, we have bad decisions, we have mistakes, we have things that you disagree with. So even though something may be good in somebody else's paradigm, that it's like not good for me. That kind of stuff is going to happen all the time. And the more we get clear that it's a part of the reality that we operate in. And so what's your job as an individual? Well, it's to learn, grow, contribute, make contributions that matter not just to you, but also to your family, to your community, to your company, stuff like that. But to basically just do the best you can and realize that it sure as heck is not a perfect world.
Yeah. And we talked about a lot of times when people don't know decisions and why they're made, that sometimes it's easy to label it as, politics in the workplace because a decision was made that wasn't in my favor.
I actually find politics to be a word that's used as an excuse a lot.
Yep.
I mean, it is real, and I agree with everything you were saying, Carl. It's sort of like there's two sides to the coin. Like you want to have a very human workplace, and yet humans are messy. So that's actually what's beautiful about us is that we are messy. We make mistakes. We're emotional. And so it's not about avoiding politics, or it's not about getting rid of our opinions and our desires for things to be different. It's about how do we embrace that and engage with each other in a powerful way versus a defensive way, a constructive way versus defensive.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm glad to see that pizza has joined the
I know pizza.
At lunchtime.
Yeah, really. Hey, pizza, if you want to send some my way, I'd love that.
Pizza on the cheap is, he's in lots of different blabs, I know. And so maybe he'll want to join us here. I don't know if he's a corporate guy, but that's okay. All right, let's hear from Pizza on the cheap. He's coming in to tell us what his experience is. What's up, Pizza?
Pizza, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, how are you? Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're at. Where are you guys from?
I'm from Colorado.
Mike?
I'm in Dallas, Texas. But hey, Pizza, I think you got some noise in your background.
Yeah, I was going to say that where I am is a busy coffee shop.
Okay, good.
Nice.
And if you want me to mute myself or do you want me to leave, I'll do anything you want me to do.
We'll try it for a minute.
Okay. So I'm not a corporate guy.
Hence the coffee shop location.
Yes. In fact, I'll work out of here most of the day. And what I want to say, corporate life probably is hell. And if you want to get out of it, I can show you all how to get out of it.
Well, but that's one solution.
Yes.
And actually, it's not the best solution for everybody. But it's a good solution for many people. I also find that sometimes people will leave corporate life for a while and decide that was great, but maybe not for me. And so maybe I'm going to go back and do something that's a little more covered. Maybe I'll go back into a small company or, maybe go into different kinds of positions. And, people have what now? The latest stats I saw was 7 to 10 careers during your lifetime.
Well, so maybe they're just in the wrong career.
Yeah. So some of them are like, some may be corporate, some of them may be small business, some may be solopreneur kinds of things. Some of them may be going out and doing volunteer work for 3 years out in South America. There's a lot of different ways to bring value to the planet.
That's what I did when I was in my version of corporate life was hell, because I didn't know what's next or what I wanted to do. So I ended up being able to add value and leadership in the community while I figured it out.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing that we're now living in a world that kind of thing is possible and a lot easier than people give it credit for.
And my company completely supported me because they know I was representing the brand and the company and the community.
Yeah, isn't that great? And actually, I had a similar path when I was working for a large company. I was really surprised at the amount of support I got for going out and making other kinds of contributions outside the scope of my day job. I did internal business coaching for a decade.
Wow.
Most of the time it was not a defined part of my job, but every time I made sure that my boss was fully aware of what was going on. I talked about it with him every month during my performance review discussions and stuff like that, to make sure that they knew that I personally had a passion around contributing to the company this way. And, that doesn't, I'd love to make it my full-time job. It's not realistic. Fine. I'll go ahead and do it anyway and make that a part of my contribution. And, only one boss during the course of a decade said, stop doing that. And I left him.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, and that's fine. It worked out. He didn't want me. I didn't want him. So it was fine.
Hey, Pizza, refresh my memory. We've met before, but I don't remember your first name.
My name is Scott.
Scott. Hey, can you tell us what you do?
Yes, I have approximately 30 years experience in print media. Print media has given way to this.
Yes.
We all got one of these little things.
Yes. And I also started a couple of years ago a network marketing business in central Pennsylvania. I have customers all over the United States in the area of wellness. And for the last few years, I've been messing around with live streaming content because I think there's huge potential in it. And I'm basically in the figuring it out stage.
Well,
any other questions?
What's your, we have this idea that corporate life, big organizations can be hell, but we've also said that's primarily an inner experience and that it can really happen anywhere. What's your biggest challenge? In what ways is working on your own hell?
I love what I do, so I'm not really challenged by it. I love the idea of not having to get up in the morning to an alarm clock.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I like the freedom that comes with sole proprietorship.
So how do we create freedom and self-proprietorship inside of a large organization? Because I think that's actually a big part of it.
Well, I get that benefit, and I represent a company that's a $1 billion company, and I have a team of people that I work with. and we market over 450 wellness products.
Okay.
Now we're talking about products that you already buy. So, for example, my wife brought my attention the other day to toothpaste. The toothpaste that you buy today from the grocery store and the drugstore, from the major brands, if you ever look on the label on the back of those tubes, it'll scare you. The kind of toxic chemicals that they put in toothpaste. And that what I'm about is showing folks that there's an alternative to that called natural toothpaste, no chemicals, no warning labels.
Good old baking soda, right?
Well, you could go baking soda. That is one option. Yes, cleaning supplies are the same thing. The aisle.
Vinegar.
So you know about vinegar, right? You probably also use tea tree oil.
Yep.
So
I know.
the lady.
Little bit of everything. I still have the chemicals too, but I try to be educated.
Yeah, that cleaning supply aisle in the grocery store should be rebranded as the chemical lane.
Yes. And it smells that way too. My eyes itch just walking down it.
Yeah, it's just not healthy for you. And I'm about showing people the other alternative, and it's a great opportunity for folks who want to break away from corporate. They want to work for themselves, but they don't have the money to put into a franchise. So this is a way where you could tie in with a company that's been providing wellness products for over 30 years. And I'm not talking about Amway. This is not a multi-level marketing deal. This is a real business.
Well, thanks for telling us about it. And thanks for joining in the conversation, Scott.
Yeah, listen, if you have any other questions, feel free to.
All right.
Anybody else that wants my seat can take it too.
I know we got one who may be interested in joining us. I want to give John, Regeneration LDC, a chance to get in here.
Okay. I'll see you folks later.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah. Thank you. I think what Scott's talking about, a lot of people do go, chase opportunities as a way of escaping, and sometimes it's a good thing. Here's what I think about that. If it's something that you're pursuing because it's based on what you're passionate about and it fits your purpose and your values, then more power to you. If it's an escape, which sometimes I talk to people and it is, then I think you're not escaping anything. You're going to bring those demons with you. That's a lot what we talked about earlier.
My boss told me one time it's about running towards something instead of away from something.
Yeah, or as John just put it, what are you chasing? One of the very best questions. What are you chasing?
Hey, John, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
John, woo!
How are you?
We've been having this Twitter conversation going on in the background. It's wonderful.
It's all right. It's one of my favorite topics in the world. Like I just live to influence and impact leadership. It's what I think I was built for. And so I applaud the topic, and you all are having great conversation. I love it.
So we know that you're a HR exec and a leadership coach, but give us a little bit more flavor to that. Tell us about yourself.
So originally, when I went to college, I went to Hampton University. I started out majoring in electrical engineering, and I did that for 4 complete years until I discovered I was never going to be an engineer. And so after that, I really went back and thought about my junior high years, and I said, what was the vision given to me? And really what I wanted to do was counsel executives when they had employee relations problems. Don't ask me how a junior high kid had that vision, but I didn't know how to get to it. So I chose the safe route and what I thought would make me a lot of money in engineering, but it just wasn't my path. So after 4 complete years, I walked into the City Hall of Norfolk, Virginia, and I was wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, and my car taxes, and I asked them for an internship in HR, and they hired me on the spot. And so that was my entry point into HR, and I just lived to impact and influence leaders.
What a magnificently courageous move, John. I applaud you for that, because a lot of people are held back from that by fear. And, it's like, oh, I put in all this investment, I'll have no credibility in that. There's too much risk. And I mean, all of that's real, especially if you're supporting a family. You have to worry about that kind of stuff. But the fact is that if you're not really making a contribution, if you're not bringing some of your best talent, then you've got to try to find a path that will get you closer to that. In corporate, out of corporate, I don't care. It's, it's all a big picture.
Isn't so safe. If that's when it turns into the corporate life being hell, that feeling.
Yeah,
that's it exactly.
When you're doing something safe and you're not being able to live out your purpose. And
And Mike, I can go back to something that you said earlier. I think it is leadership that makes corporate life hell at times. And I've been through a couple of instances where leadership made the corporate life literal hell. And I think I have a pretty high tolerance. And the thing that I said to my team as we were going through these bouts of hell, one was I gave them the reality of the situation. Like, yeah, we are in hell and we're not going to be consumed by it. It's going to be okay. I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to cover you, but we're also not going to flee from the situation that we're in. The other thing I said to them
make it better.
Right. And that's the second thing I'm talking about, Laura, is the next thing is you have to keep what you are here to accomplish front and center. Mm-hmm. And you always have
start
to
with the end.
You have to keep your purpose, your vision in mind, and that should be what drives you through the storm. And you have to continually look to impact and influence, even if you cannot directly impact the problem, impact what surrounds the problem, impact the people that surround the problem, and you're working on the problem. So this is why I love this topic so much.
Yeah, I think that the corporate life is hell part of it is about failures in leadership or lack of leadership. Mm-hmm. Leadership is about taking responsibility. And so that starts with yourself. And so if I take responsibility for my own experience, part of that is knowing what it is that I want and where I'm going and creating that sense of purpose for myself. If I don't have that, then I'm just blowing in the wind from other, people who are not leading either. Sure. Now, a great leader outside of me can inspire within me a sense of purpose. And so that's the other way that leadership fails us, is when the people in positions of power, hierarchical power, really don't engage their people. So it's the failures in leadership at all levels.
Yeah, I mean, I know Laura said that she's in Wisconsin. I used to work for Johnson Controls, and
nice.
It was one of my best experiences ever. I love that place, and the thing that was essential and paramount to the leadership expectations model in that corporation was you are either leading self, someone, or globally. And that says at the end of the day, you should at least be a leader yourself and leading yourself. Mm-hmm. So it helps you endure the hell and also optimize while you're in the hell.
Mm-hmm.
You are either leading self, other, or globally.
There you go.
All right.
One of my best lessons ever.
Yeah, so what that reminds me of is a new book that's out from the co-founders of the Coaches Training Institute, which is where I met Carl and Laura, the two founders, Henry and Karen Kinsey House, and they wrote a book called Coactive Leadership: 5 Ways to Lead, and it really is about everybody being a leader, and that there are 5 dimensions from which you can lead. Historically or typically, people think of leadership one-dimensionally, like leading from the front. I'm the guy in charge or the woman in charge, and I'm gonna charge ahead and show people where to go. And that is a form of leadership, but it's a very limited view. Yeah. This 5 ways to lead is there's leading from the front, but there's also leading from behind. So often the way that we lead is to support other people. How do we support and engage people to open them up and to help them choose? And that was the part I said about, when you have bad leadership at the top and then I'm not finding it in myself, that's failures at all levels. But a good leader from behind can inspire me to find that purpose. Then you've got leading from beside, which is about how do I partner really well with another leader. And then the really interesting one I like is leading from the field, which is how do I read the space or really understand what's happening on a global level. That's John, when you talked about self, other, and global, that's what reminded me of this. Leading from the field is sensing what's needed, what's emerging in the chaos of daily life or whatever. And leadership is about sensing that and reading it and feeling it and then acting upon it. And then all 4 of those come together, overlapping in the middle, where it's leading from within. And that's part of what we've been talking about.
I love that. And some of I have obviously, in addition to the day job, I have clients that I meet with, and usually it's small business leaders, and usually it's powerful women. And the thing that I try to instill and grow in them is the want and the need for their leadership, and to have them exhibit leadership qualities and leadership behavior at all times. And I ask them, what are you supposed to do as a leader, and what is your charge? And try to keep that directly in front of them so that they can navigate their way through the situations that are presented to them.
Yeah, and don't just fall into the trap of modeling that the male way of doing leadership is the best fit, the most appropriate for every situation. Because, for whatever reason, we give so much airtime to these super masculine forms of leadership, go out and kill people and do campaigns and, cross across Asia in a big march,
Hero leadership.
Yeah. And the fact is that in today's world, if it was ever true, there's just not that many situations where that is a great fit. And as a matter of fact, the real powerful stuff is being done in other forms of leadership. And if you want to call it feminine forms, fine. People use that in the press, but honestly, I think those distinctions no longer serve us.
True.
Yeah.
Well, what were you going to say?
I was at a leadership council meeting last week with a panel of women that lead in the community, and one of the top businesses is run here by a woman, and she was even sharing that as successful as she's been in her career, she doesn't know how she has faith in herself because her confidence is not where it needs to be. And it just was striking to me. And that's why I do what I do, because if you don't believe in yourself, going back to our theme of corporate life is hell, and the only thing you can control is yourself and how you have that foundation. It's so hard.
You know what? We have a bunch of wildly successful people, especially women, who don't have a solid foundation in who they are. Like you can see at the root of who they are. Like there's bad self-esteem. Everyone has some of it, but there's bad self-esteem. There's lack of confidence. There's extreme fear. They move in spite of it, but the foundation, when you start to pull back the layers, is really kind of shaky. And that's the thing that I love to help with, and that's the thing I think we should help with.
Yeah, there's an element in this conversation, too, about vulnerability. I think that one of the strongest things leaders can do is be vulnerable. And that's that I think gets at your point, Carl, about the masculine way of leading. Most men, I can tell you from my own personal experience growing up, it's not always socially acceptable to appear vulnerable or to somehow look weak. And so what we do is we put on this air of invulnerability. And I think that's where leaders fail so often is being out in front with an invulnerable, I know the answer, follow me, and this is the only way. And, sometimes when people are able to say, I'm unsure, that could be the strongest thing that they can do. That makes them real to the people that they're leading, and there's a connection there. It doesn't mean they're insecure or that they lack confidence, or at least not in a debilitating way. It means that they are secure enough to say, I don't know all the answers. If we had more leaders who said, I don't know all the answers.
Or just even in the corporate world, how often I'm sorry I made a mistake at that. Hello, Volkswagen. I mean, every day there's something like that. You're just like, and that's like the tip of the iceberg with something like that. But seriously.
We don't want to just point to those big, huge examples either. I mean, you're absolutely right. Every day, every hour, every relationship, we're just constantly learning, making mistakes. It's a mess. And the fact is that because we want to operate together as humans and do things together and accomplish and all that kind of stuff, the fact is that we need to have that vulnerability, be apologetic, be supportive, be encouraging. I mean, the full gamut of emotions, and the fact that we've tried to think of corporate environments as unemotional and dry, I think is very, very dangerous. Gotten us into a lot of trouble.
Check your emotions at the door.
Right. Yeah. And that's so true of many, many companies, They just want to hide who you are. That, when I leave work at the end of the day, then I can show some humanity with the people I really love. Well,
boy, I think you just hit on one of the most important points about corporate life as hell. The reason it can be that way is when we shut down who we are, or we try to hide or suppress who we are, because there's no such thing as leave your emotions at the door. There's only let me hide my emotions now because it's not socially acceptable to be feeling in this work environment. It's I can't show that bothers me, or I can't show that I'm angry or whatever. In other words, I can't be human. I can't be human here. I have to pretend like I'm not.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to go back to something.
Robot world.
Yeah, indeed. I want to go back to something that Mike alluded to, and that we have all been talking about, that ability to be vulnerable. I was in a blab yesterday, and it was kind of a men's council, and I made a point about how, as children, we are taught to take risks. Boys are taught to take risks physically, but not taught to take risks emotionally. And you see that playing out constantly in the workplace. You see it's a shame that it's just so many adults that are damaged and constricted and held back by not being able to bring their full selves or authentic selves to the workplace.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's been my experience, even personally, because as I've been more open about myself and been on my journey about taking more emotional risks, what I discover is that I'm unique. I'm not, certainly there's a whole lot of people like me, but in the world of coaching, the coaching training I went through and everything, I'm always a very small fraction of the number of men that are in the classes. And, one of my competitive advantages often as an executive coach is that I'm male, because sometimes there are clients who say, well, we're looking for a male coach for this male executive. And so they seek me out because I'm like the token male on their slate. So, I mean, I think that in a way it's sad, I find myself in certain segments of society, maybe hiding that part of myself a little bit instead of really embracing it. Not so much anymore, but I used to.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a way for us to be leaders, right? By having this conversation and encouraging people to bring that to their work life, their careers, their business, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, be you.
Yeah. Be you. That should be the title of our next blab.
Yes, I love it.
So I think what we targeted was about a 45-minute conversation, which gives us about 5 minutes left. Maybe I could pose one last question for us, which is, what are we doing in the world to go make an impact, to go and liberate? Part of this theme, I say it half jokingly, corporate life is hell. part of the theme came from a coaching session that I had where I was the coachee, where I came to a realization that the work I was doing now is liberating corporate America from hell. And so maybe that's our closing question is, what are we each doing this week to go and liberate the corporate world one more bit?
Look, I'll jump in first and then let you two end up because you are the panelists here. I thank you for your time and letting me in the seat. But I think if I were to narrow it down to one thing, the one thing that I try to do for myself and for the leaders that I engage is to have courageous conversation all the time and not spend time on coffee with cream and sugar, and try to give black coffee as much as I can and get to the real issues and have real discussions that lead to real actions all the time. And I have those with myself as well as leaders.
You got to go for that bitter chocolate. You know, it's still chocolate, but it's got the dose of reality on the inside.
Mm-hmm. You better bet it.
Kicking the pan.
Right. Right.
Yeah, John, thanks for being a part of this.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Well, for me, I've been had a great discussion last week with some of my supporters, and I'm starting up a new project around serving people who are exiting corporate life, and yet they don't want to end their real life. So, you know, they're in that space of retired or maybe got laid off or maybe just exploring the next stage. You know, there's a whole bunch of scenarios there. And a lot of them are moving into self-defined careers. Maybe they're doing consulting or mentoring or serving on advisory boards or any number of things like that. And it happens to be an area that I have a lot of personal interest and some history with. And so I'm going to be starting up some new content and services around that because there's such great need here locally and across the entire country, and it appears to be underserved.
Yeah, there's a huge market for that.
Yeah.
Great. How about you, Laura? Where are you going next?
I'm currently in the process of working on career hacks for our work-life balance workshop for women. And the conversation today really sparked my thought process when creating things around pulling in some of those like emotions and how you're showing up at work and not just being like frazzled and stressed, but being able to take that step back so that you're leading yourself, but then you're also being that role model for all those people that you're working with around you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful. Well, I'm stealing something from John. I've been putting together a workshop for Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, and it's a corporate leadership team. And they've asked me to do some team development work with them, but also helping them create from conflict. They're an organization that's creating change in their larger organization, and they want to get skilled at, leading the way. And their style has typically been to, try to bowl everybody else over. This is the right solution. We need everybody to get behind this. And so I've crafted this workshop that's all about conversation, about slowing it down and connecting with their stakeholders and having real conversations. And I'm basing a lot of it on the book Crucial Conversations. And what I was,
excellent book.
Yeah. And but I'm not, I'm sort of making it unique. And so I wasn't planning on using that title, Crucial Conversations. I was playing with powerful conversations. And well, so what I'm stealing from you, John, is that great reminder that they are courageous conversations.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's powerful because people do want to have courage. It's seen as a positive thing. And we all recognize that it's not easy to have courage. And so it's one of the things that maybe gives people a little bit more hope to say, you've got to be courageous, but it's okay. You can survive it,
Yeah. Hey, John, refresh my memory where you're calling in from.
I live in Bowie, Maryland, and I work in Arlington. I work for an energy company in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so John Haynes, thank you for calling in from Virginia. Laura, or Gmeinder out in Wisconsin. And Carl in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Absolutely, and thanks, Mike, for putting this together. Great discussion today.
Yeah, John, it was great to have you. Definitely added a lot.
Happy to be a part
And I do
of it.
like the blab format. This is the first time we've tried this. And so it's actually did change the nature of the energy today, didn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it.
Yeah. So
we've got
fantastic.
to inspire one another.
Yeah, exactly.
Much more engaging, I think, than what we were getting on Google Hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm Mike from Dallas, Texas, and I thank everybody for being on.